think we all just fed up with Jada at this point. You know it's bad when 50 Cent step in and say free Will Smith. 50 Cent? Because one thing about 50 Cent, everybody know he ain't got no sympathy for nobody, not even his own goddamn son.
Looks like 50 Cent found some time in between trolling Diddy to go after Jada Pinkett Smith and expose her for lying about Tupac and using his name for clout. For the past 2 weeks, Jada's had the whole internet begging her to stop talking about Tupac. But as expected, Miss Girl ain't stopping anytime soon. After claiming that Tupac proposed to her in prison and revealing he had alopecia, she's now claiming Suge Knight personally gave her some of Pac's ashes. Y'all, I cannot with Jada anymore. Tupac had a whole fiance who was by his bedside when he died, and Jada wasn't even on speaking terms with Pac at the time. So the fact that she's now using Pac's name to promote her book is honestly so vile and disrespectful. And yes, I know Jada and Pac were friends, but Jada, please let this man rest in peace. Now, as for 50 Cent, he's so sick of Jada's foolishness that he started a Free Will Smith campaign, and he's now calling her out for making up stories about Pac and humiliating Will.
Hey, this 50 is so funny. He's talking about Jada in New York looking for Puffy right now.
Honestly, I don't know what's going on with Jada Pinkett, but her behavior is getting concerning. And I know she's always loved oversharing. I mean, that's pretty much how she stayed in the spotlight since her career flopped. But what she's doing now is getting out of hand. So you all know how Jada has a new book out called Worthy. And just like many people predicted when Jada first announced this book, she's once again talking about her one-sided relationship with the late Tupac Shakur. And like I said before, it's true that Jada and Tupac shared a special bond, and Pac made it clear on more than one occasion that he really did care about Jada as a friend. But the way Jada is now dragging this out and revealing Tupac's private information is insane to me. Jada recently talked to People magazine about that whole Oscar slap scandal when Chris Rock joked about her shaved head, and somehow she found a way to drag Tupac into this conversation too, claiming that Pac had alopecia just like she did, but he didn't want to talk about it in public. I don't think Tupac ever talked about the alopecia he suffered from. After he was in Northern California with the police officers that beat him up, he started losing his hair, and his alopecia patterns were far more extreme than mine. I don't think Pac ever talked about his alopecia, but he also looked really good with a bald head. So let me get this straight. Pac never wanted to talk about it and wanted to keep it private, but Jada decided it was her place to tell the world, and that's not all, y'all. Jada also claimed in another recent interview that Tupac proposed to her when she visited him in prison at Rikers Island.
He was in bad shape. And so when he asked me to get married, he was at Rikers. And I knew at that time that, he needed somebody to do time with him, which I was gonna do anyway. You didn't have to marry me to do time, right? I'm here.
Jada is really trying to say she was Tupac's ride or die when this man had already proposed to his then girlfriend Keisha Morris before going to jail, and they got married after Tupac was transferred from Rikers to Clinton Correctional Facility.
Cool. So prior to going into Rikers, Tupac already had a girlfriend named Keisha. He proposed to Keisha, her words, in a September 2011 interview. He proposed to Keisha before he even went into prison. They were already engaged. They got married in April. And in the time that he got sentenced and was taken to prison, Keisha actually moved closer to be by him and be by the prison and saw him on a near daily basis.
Now, even if Pac did ask Jada to marry him, let's not act like Pac was a one-woman man. He had multiple women visiting him the whole time he was in prison, and the only reason he married Keisha was to make sure someone could legally handle his business affairs while he was locked up. But after Tupac was released from prison, he decided to turn over a new leaf. He announced he would distance himself from music and start acting more, and he also found love with his longtime crush, Kidada Jones.
Working on my little production company, a movie production company. We got a lot of good things happening, so I'm just, if I say it right now, the way my luck has been going, it'll all fall through. But if I said it, you go, oh, that's really nice. But just give me a month, just so I can lock it down, then I'll tell everybody. But it's good stuff. I just want to push the envelope and work. I want to move further away from the music and start waning myself into the acting more.
By this point, Pac had already stopped talking to Jada, and in the meantime, Jada started dating Will and married him just after a few months of dating, after she found out she was pregnant with Jaden. As for Pac and Kidada, Pac was head over heels for her, and they were reportedly planning to start a family. When Tupac introduced Kidada to his mother, Afeni, he told his mom, "I love her. She's going to be my wife. She's having my children." Tupac got a house for him and Kidada in Calabasas, California, but sadly, their plans for the future were tragically cut short just 4 months later when Pac was shot and killed in Las Vegas. Kidada was with Pac in Vegas and was waiting for him in their hotel room at the time of the incident. She got the call that he had been shot, and when she arrived at the hospital, Afeni allowed her in the room where Pac was being monitored. Kidada was one of the last people to speak to him, and according to her 1997 interview with Vanity Fair, the last thing she told him was, "Do you know I love you? Do you know we all love you?" But just as Pac nodded yes, he started convulsing and was put into a medically induced coma. Sadly, on September 13, 1996, while he was in the critical care unit, Pac suffered a cardiac arrest and respiratory failure after the removal of his right lung. Doctors tried to revive him, but nothing could be done, and his mother, Afeni, made the decision to stop medical treatment. Kidada was devastated. She later told VH1 that she fell into a deep depression and couldn't speak or leave her home for 9 months after Pac's death. She also felt guilty for not doing more to stop Pac from going out that night. She reportedly had a strange feeling that something bad was going to happen before Pac left their hotel, and she asked him to stay in that night, but he insisted on going. Now, the reason why I'm telling you all this is to show why Jada's recent comments about Tupac are disrespectful. Despite not being there for Tupac in his final year, Jada decided to dedicate a whole section of her new book to talk about how she attended a private memorial for Pac in actress Jasmine Guy's backyard, and how Suge Knight gave her Pac's ashes. "He delivered Pac's ashes into my very hands," Jada writes. "Having to receive Pac's ashes in that way was a really devastating moment, and I'll put it like that, to just get him in that little cardboard box, and yes, I was very rageful about the whole thing, about everything." And again, I get that Jada cared about Pac, but I think it's so weird to reveal all these private details about a man who's been deceased for almost 30 years when even his fiance never talks about him in public. And then, of course, there's Will, who publicly admitted how he was insanely jealous of Tupac and Jada's bond, and how it made him insecure and question his own masculinity.
Were you ever jealous of the love Jada had for Tupac?
I know you gonna say no.
God, that dude. Let me, and you know, and that was in the early days. But she just loved him like he was the image of perfection. But she was with the Fresh Prince, you know. So it was like I never could, like, even we were in a room together a couple times. I couldn't speak to him, you know. And you know, he wasn't going to speak to me if I wasn't going to speak to him. I couldn't handle it, you know. I was the soft rapper from Philly, right. And he was Pac.
Right.
You know
at least he didn't
do
a diss song about you or nothing.
I know, right? Exactly. But yeah, no, I was deeply insecure. And just I wasn't man enough to handle that relationship.
So not only is Jada being disrespectful to Tupac's fiance Kidada, but she's also disrespecting her own husband. And yes, Jada is now claiming that she and Will have been separated for a while, but that's still the father of her children. And since he already admitted he was jealous and insecure about her relationship with Pac, the way she keeps dragging it, it really seems to me like she enjoys reminding Will that he'll never be as good as Pac in her eyes. And I'm not the only one who feels this way, because 50 Cent is now saying, "Forget Free Britney, we need a Free Will Smith movement because Jada's behavior is getting out of control." 50 Cent recently took to Instagram to call out Jada over her recent comments about Tupac and her marriage to Will. And he shared a screenshot from a recent news article about Jada revealing she sold crack as a teenager. And in the caption, 50 wrote, "All right, enough is enough. Free Will Smith. What the F is going on?" Shortly after 50 shared a clip of ESPN commentator Stephen A. Smith going off on Jada for emasculating Will, and he captioned it, "They say never say never, but I ain't never getting caught up in no like this. Don't even say marriage to me. F that." But 50 didn't stop there. He also trolled Jada over her obsession with Tupac, and he posted a photoshopped image of Jada in the car with Pac and Suge Knight on the night of the deadly incident. 50 wrote in the caption, "Thug life. Jada in New York looking for Puffy. LOL, you think you're gonna get away?" But 50 isn't the only one dragging Jada. One fan on Twitter shared the same photo of Pac and Suge and wrote, "Jada Pinkett Smith reveals she was in the car that night with Tupac. When the bullets started flying, she was heard screaming, 'Take Will Smith instead!'" And on one more serious note, another Twitter user wrote, "Can the Tupac family members send Jada a cease and desist, please? She ain't talking bad about him, but let that man rest in peace. He had a whole wife. She ain't even doing all this. It's embarrassing. She needs to stop doing these interviews and go see a therapist." But what do you think is the real reason Jada won't stop talking about Tupac? Is she still not over Pac? Is it all just for clout, or is she doing it to punish Will? Let me know in the comments, and then check out this next video.